Hey everybody, welcome back to the Willow Center podcast. I am one of your hosts, Chase Cotton, the community director here at the Willow Center in Brownsburg, Indiana. This is season 4, episode 9, and I'm really stoked for this episode because it is Recovery Month in the United States of America. Every September is National Recovery Month. It's a month where we get to celebrate our friends and colleagues and family members that are in long-term recovery, celebrate how hard they've worked and how hard they continue to work, maintaining sobriety and a recovery lifestyle, and honestly, just celebrate the fact that recovery is possible. And so in order to really celebrate that properly, we are really excited to have a special guest. This is our friend Elijah. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself briefly?
So my name is Elijah Lewis. I've been here. I've been an active client here for the past 4 months. My sobriety date is May 10th.
Awesome.
So I work at a block making factory, and I'm in active recovery.
Good for you, man.
Yeah.
That's great. Well,
Yes,
thank you
sir.
so much for being willing to be here
Absolutely.
and share your
It's
story
my
with
pleasure.
us. I'm going to dive into that a little bit, but as is our tradition, I like to always open our episodes with a quote. So a quote that has really stuck out to me as it relates to recovery in particular is from author and researcher Robert Collier. And he says, "Success is the sum of small efforts repeated day in and day out." And the reason why I find that one particularly impactful is I feel like when it comes to recovery, a lot of people who aren't either experiencing it themselves or directly adjacent to it don't understand that, like, this is like a daily thing. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
This is not just like a light switch where it's like, oh, I have this date on the calendar behind me and now everything's fine. Like, this is hard work every day. It's those repeated small efforts day in and day out. And I think that's a really beautiful way of reminding ourselves as allies and regarnering our support for those in the recovery community, remembering that it is a daily fight.
I would say it's a lifelong journey.
Yeah.
I mean, that's scary to say lifelong, but I feel like, once you're in it, I mean, for me, I have to, I've came to the realization that I have to work a program, and, that's just doing, you hear take it one day at a time all the time, but
Yeah.
it is one day at a time, but it is a lifelong journey.
Absolutely.
So
So speaking of journeys, if you're willing, would you tell us a little bit about your journey up to this point?
Yeah.
You can give us as much or as little details you'd like. Just kind of tell us what does being in recovery mean to you now? Tell us where you've been.
So I think, there's a difference between sobriety and recovery.
Amen to that.
Sobriety is the actual state of being clean and sober, but recovery is working a daily program. It's about healing, health, and happiness, and basically figuring out what works for you as in your recovery. Everybody's recovery is different.
Yeah.
For me, so my story kind of started out, I started using drugs and alcohol when I was 13 years old. I got arrested at 13 for a alcohol charge.
Yeah.
And I've basically been in the system since I was 13, and I'm currently still in the legal system, but I'm working through that. I'm doing, basically just doing the right thing every single day, trying to better myself than I was yesterday.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot. I've grown, and to be honest with you, I just had almost 3 years. May 11th of this past year would have been my 3-year mark, but nobody's exempt. I thought that I kind of got complacent, I think.
Yeah.
I started taking back my will. I started taking back, I started getting back into my pride, back into that normal stuff that I've always done my whole life, basically doing what I want to do.
Yeah.
And basically, I go to church every week. I try to better my walk with, Jesus Christ every day.
Yeah.
My higher power. But really kind of my journey started out, it would have been June, or it would have been not June, it would have been May 11th of 2021. So I had an overdose. I was in the hospital and it wasn't, it was a pretty serious overdose.
Yeah, man.
And I was in the hospital, or I was in a coma basically for 3 days.
Wow.
And I woke up, with my mom on the side of the bed, kind of crying, and basically wanting me to finally surrender. She said she wanted me. She spoke the word of, rehab and sober living houses for the longest time. God was telling her that she kept hearing sober living house.
Yeah, sure.
So obviously, me being prideful and being the I got this, and basically the hard-headed the character and prideful character that I am, I didn't want no part of that. Yeah. But when I woke up, it was that they say in Alcoholics Anonymous you have a spiritual awakening.
Yeah.
And at first I kind of battled her. I tried to tell her I've got stuff to do, and I just made all these excuses why I can't go to rehab. And
right.
It was just seeing her cry more. It was finally that moment that I just said, okay. And I just gave in, and I finally surrendered. And
amazing, man.
It was like a ton of bricks was lifted off of me that day. And then I could finally breathe.
Wow.
So
can I just say, I'm really glad you're alive.
Yeah.
Man, that's
I appreciate
remarkable.
that.
I'm so proud that you're alive and you're here to even
too.
share this much of your story.
Absolutely. It's a miracle that I'm here today.
Yeah.
And that's what, I've had so many close calls to death. I've been in car accidents, and there was a couple prior overdoses that I came close to death. But, this one was one that, I was out on bond for 5 cases. And at the time, and I had some drugs on me at the time when I came into the hospital, and thank God that they filed charges on me, and it the catalyst that I got out of the hospital 2 days later, so I was there for total for 5 days.
5 days.
And I had made the deal, I'm going to rehab, and so I agreed to go to Landmark, Praxis by Landmark.
Yeah.
In Carmel, and so I was getting prepared, getting ready. I was on active probation. I was getting prepared to go, and I was going to call my probation officer, my attorney.
Yeah.
And then I looked online, and then I had all them warrants. So it was at that moment where it was that flight. I wanted to run, but you know what? And I even called the center, and I said, "What do you do to people that have warrants? Do you have a protocol for that? Do you guys call the cops?" And they said, "No, once we get you, they can't touch you." So I'm like, say less.
Sounds like a plan.
So I was so ready to go. And once I got there, I was so willing to change everything because I was so sick. I've been doing this for 20, at that time it was around 20 years of just chaos. I mean, I've been arrested. I had 3 DUIs by the time I turned 21.
I mean, it's exhausting by the time you get to that point.
And I did have a few years. I've been in work release 4 times. I completed. I've always done really well with structure.
Yeah.
But I never had a plan. I never got serious with my recovery.
Right.
I never got a sponsor like I said I was going to do. I sat in hundreds of AA meetings just to get out of work release, basically just to manipulate the system.
Have something else to do,
So I think, you get sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I was done with it. And I am done with it. I don't want to live that life no more. I'm 35 years old now. I went to, obviously, so when I got out of jail, when I got out of rehab, I had to face the music, and I went immediately to the Henderson County Jail, and then I was in jail there for 3 or 4 months, and then I went to another jail. But I made the best of those visits. I was the head cook at both jails.
Nice.
They started a little recovery, to be in the inmate worker block. They started it's a recovery block.
Yeah.
So basically, I was willing to do whatever, and I was also facing 6 years in prison at the time.
Right.
For my most recent case, one of the cases that I was on bond for, which was my most major case out of the warrants, I was facing 6 years, and they weren't coming off of that. So,
right.
But like I said, I was willing to do whatever. And I was getting ready to get out of jail in Boone County, and I got told that, and I had a court date on Thursday, and I got, I'm ready to get out, and I had a plan, but there's the God, my higher power thing, where I was able to get out, but I had to go to a sober living house.
Yeah.
So
And that was like sort of part of the deal.
Right. So
yeah.
my fiance, it was like, and I was completely discouraged because there had been a couple of guys in there, that block, that had been waiting for beds at other places.
Sure.
And like, I'm immediately like, I'm not getting out of jail. And
Right.
she's like, no worries. I filled this application out, a place called Waymaker.
Yeah.
It's in Plainfield, but it's faith-based. And
Yeah.
I said, that's even better.
Yeah.
So she's like, all you got to do is call this guy. So I called the guy, and he's like, is this what you want to do? And I said, absolutely. So I was released that night and was picked or dropped off, basically. I got out of jail the next day.
Yeah.
And then went to Waymaker, and that place changed my life.
Yeah, man.
You know?
Shout out Waymaker, Cindy and Carly, if you see this. We love you.
Absolutely. They're an amazing family. They saved my life.
Yeah, man.
For what they've done and just allowing people to, 12 guys to come and live in their house. They kind of gave up their house for
Right.
this whole cause. But, that plate, we lived and breathed recovery every single day. Like, we went to meetings every single night. Besides Sunday nights, we'd have a little house meeting, but like we went to meetings every day.
Yeah, man.
And to be honest with you, that was the most that's the happiest I've been in my entire life.
Wow.
Because I was learning how to adult.
Right.
We were taking financial peace class by Dave Ramsey. I learned had a little quarrels in that, doing financial things that I shouldn't have done, but like I learned from those things, and
Yeah.
I learned so much in that 9 months, and then getting that certificate was
It's a huge accomplishment.
It
Yeah.
was, and like I couldn't ask for a better place to do it at. I've heard stories of, I'm not putting down other sober living places, but like
No,
I've
but
heard-
they're not all the same. There's some hard joints out there.
right, and like the group of guys that I lived with and walked the sober life with every single day. There was a core group of us. We're still friends today, and
Love that.
I think all of us are sober. And we all are pretty much all in contact with each other.
That's
So
amazing.
That right there, you got to change the people, places, and things.
Right.
And like, I was willing to. One of my old sponsors said, "You got to change everything." And like, the people is something that I wanted to change the most.
Right.
Because the people, I felt like, it was my downfall sometimes.
Right.
Because not saying those people were bad, but like now the support system that I have today, I couldn't ask for a better group of guys.
Absolutely, man.
And people just in general. All the people that are affiliated with Waymaker have changed my life. I mean, forever.
Yeah.
So
It's amazing, dude.
It's amazing. I watched lives get transformed at Waymaker.
Yeah.
I watched, guys get their kids back
Right.
after losing their kids that were told that they would never get their kids, and like seeing those types of things, and seeing people get off probation earlier, seeing people get their cases dismissed.
Yeah.
And the bittersweet part of it was I was facing that 6 years, and it was 6 months in, and I was getting ready to go to trial, and I was put in a predicament I had to choose. They were not coming up off a DOC sentence,
Yeah.
and they finally gave in. They were like, "All right, well, we're going to time serve you, and you're not going to go to jail." 'Cause
Yeah.
I felt like going to jail was a step backwards for me.
Right.
I didn't
Especially
wanna
after going to Waymaker. Yeah.
Right. And like I felt like, it was one of those moments where I was just like mad because at the system.
Yeah.
But it was also one of those moments where I, said to God that like, if I have to go to prison, I'm going to make the best of it and do it in your honor, because if that's meant to be, and I've been to jail many, many times.
Yeah.
And, I think that was my 9th felony conviction.
Right.
Nothing too violent or anything crazy, but like it's all drugs and alcohol related, every single charge. So that's why, and I just given that opportunity to not go to jail and serve a different sentence on community corrections.
Yeah.
I feel like that was God honoring me doing the right thing.
Absolutely, man.
So,
Doesn't get much more providentially supported than that.
Yeah, it's been like I said, it's been a long journey. It's been a little over 3 years.
Yeah.
I just had 4 months sober.
It's incredible, man.
Yesterday. So
yesterday was 4 months.
4 months.
That's right, dude. Yeah. That's great.
So
that's really, really incredible, man. I think your story is such a testament to the fact that you mentioned earlier that recovery is so much more than just sobriety, right? Like that's a biological factor, right? But recovery is proof that what's impossible can be made possible.
Oh yeah.
Right. Recovery is the hope that sort of threads its way through your story through those several years. In the most recent 3, being in long-term recovery. I think that's I don't know, man. I just feel inspired. It's incredible.
I think the true meaning of recovery is hope.
Yeah.
To me.
Do you feel like the meaning has changed over time, like since the beginning of this 3-year period to now?
Absolutely. I feel like I took advantage of life for so many years. Just being able to go take a walk or go to the gas station or going hiking. I always had to have. I felt like I never did anything sober. I mean, I did, but like I've just been in the legal system and like dealing with structurized functions.
Yeah.
Getting permission to go to, a church event.
Right.
And I feel like I've always just been, I never really realized how life is so awesome sober.
Yeah.
Like just taking a hike at a park. I'm looking forward to life.
Yeah, man.
Doing that. And like it has changed. Like obviously, I feel like after 2 years of sobriety, that's when I started kind of going back into my, as the big book says, our quarrels. I felt like I started going back to those things, and it's
pretty common for those that kind of reach that like 2 year, 3 year mark.
Yeah.
Kind of letting the guard down almost.
Yes. It started out with gambling, like on online sports betting. Which
is addictive if you're not aware. It's addictive in the same way substances are addictive.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
But it started out with, putting those little things into my mind and those, I feel like those behaviors led me to, relapsing.
Yeah, the slip up.
And I hate it. I used to, seeing people going up and get start over tokens after I've seen people with 5 years, 6 years. I hear people in meetings that, Alcoholics Anonymous meetings that just had 5, 6, 7, 10 years. And like my heart always hurt for those people that, like I'm like, man, I couldn't even imagine the being humiliated to go. I mean, that takes a lot of courage to start over and I always wondered, like, I couldn't imagine starting over.
Yeah.
But
which I feel like that's almost as much vernacular related to what recovery program you choose as it is to anything else.
Oh,
right? Like the coins and the symbolism, they're beautiful and important.
Yeah. But
like when slip-ups occur, when recurrences, relapses, whatever you want to call them occur, like it sucks. But that is a midway point in the journey, right? I don't necessarily see that, in my own opinion, as a new beginning necessarily. Especially if you've got these years of sobriety under your belt and recovery under your belt. Like, it is a slip-up.
Yes.
But, like, you're still in the journey.
Yes. And that's what I got told. Obviously, I was hurting.
Man.
When I had to start over, I'm like, man, I got to start over. And then, like, I got told, because the support group that I have, the guys that are in my life uplifted me. I mean, if it weren't for the guys that are in my life, throughout this journey, the past little over 3 years, I probably would have went back out and I probably wouldn't be here today.
Sure.
To be honest with you. So I got told it's not starting over. You've learned so much. It's just a growing point.
Right.
So I feel and once I heard that, I'm like, you know what? It's all right. And like, I take my birthdays, my sobriety milestones, I take those very serious.
Yeah.
When I did the IoT here, I always uplifted my group members, when they get 30 days, 60 days, and then 90 days.
Yeah.
I'm always like,
those first 3 are always the hardest to get.
They are. You know, one day, each day is hard.
Yeah.
You know, you hear one day at a time, but really it's one decision at a time, I think.
Yeah, that's powerful.
You know, I think that's so true.
Yeah.
Because it is one decision at a time, and it only takes that one time. You know, it's the cycle of addiction. You start out with an obsession, and then you start obsessing over it.
Yeah.
You know, even having, say, if you got 20 years, you know, but like, that's why you got to use the tools that you've been given, you know, to block those out.
Right.
You know, obviously, once you start getting those thoughts, that's why you utilize the tools that you've been given.
Absolutely.
Like, especially with this place, you know, like.
Tell us a little more about your experience in treatment, because like there might be some viewers or listeners that are on the fence about making that jump, whether or not they are under legal supervision or not. Like,
yeah,
you know, like you might be right there on that cusp, but they're like, I don't know about treatment, man. That seems like a huge commitment. What's that been like for you? So
at first, I was all for it. I was like, yeah, I'm willing to do whatever. I was willing to go to an inpatient rehab, but I kind of got deterred from that because then again, I wasn't starting over. I had done so much work, and to be at the point where I was at, I felt like, the first place that came to mind was the Willow Center.
Yeah.
I actually have been through, I've known. It's amazing how far the Willow Center has come.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 12 years.
Yeah, 12 years this year.
I was in work release, and I did I think it's the outpatient, the OP program. I graduated that. I actually got released from work release and came back to a class, which not many people do.
Right.
And I was sober. I think I was using again right shortly after, but I still came back, got the certificate. And it's just amazing how much this place has grown.
Yeah, man.
As far as like education and accountability, at first, the first couple of weeks, I'm really beating myself up because I'm like, this is a lot.
Yeah.
To come here, sit for 3 hours, it's a lot. But, I spent a lot of time in my addiction doing pointless circles for no reason. I spent a lot of time figuring out how to get money, figuring out how to make things happen, to just kind of chase a drug or alcohol.
Sure.
So I'm willing to do whatever it takes. And, as about a month or so went by, I realized that, one, I bring a lot to the table in my group setting.
Yeah.
I grew, I made a friend first week, started talking to him. We still talk to this day.
It's awesome.
We keep each other accountable. When he's having a bad day, I uplift him. It's vice versa. But I feel like I brought a lot to the table as far as helping others. That one, I had close to 3 years.
Yeah.
And, being in AA and going through the steps, I felt like I brought a lot to the table.
Absolutely.
But the therapists are amazing here. I still come to individual therapy with the counselor that I had for the IoT class.
Awesome.
It seems like a lot, but I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Yeah.
I would regret it so much if I gave up and just didn't come.
We know you won't.
Right, exactly. So, and the program, the things they offer afterwards, to keep me I'm going to a class once a week called Seeking Safety. We're learning stuff. We learn a lot in the IoT class, but Seeking Safety, it keeps me accountable.
Right.
And I look forward to going to that class.
Yeah, man.
One, it's only 1 hour, but
it's a little lower commitment.
It is,
good.
But
it's that touch point.
I enjoy. I look forward to when I leave. The one, on Tuesday nights, I can't wait to come back.
Yeah.
Just because the group of people that are in there, and then the therapist, and it's great.
I love witnessing that change in our clients and alumni.
Yeah.
Because for so many, it starts out with a lot of two things: either reluctance out of fear, or reluctance out of anger. Those are like those like early stages of change. If you're familiar with the stages of change, it's like that denial and like anger and or fear.
Absolutely.
And by like week 3, week 4, there's some softening. Week 5, week 6, it turns into that like looking forward, like they're actually eager, And I think that's such a beautiful thing because I don't know, between you and me, I feel like every adult, regardless of their recovery story, could and should do something like this, just from a personal development standpoint, because when you get to the point where you're looking forward to working on yourself and supporting a group of people, like that's what being human is all about.
Yeah, and it's not just about learning about how to stay sober. It's about mental health as well, because like, there's so much stuff that goes into staying sober. You got to make sure that you're, for me, spiritually fit,
right?
And like basically my mental health is in check, and those things that I've been, especially going to individual therapy, once a week, I'm probably looking to, keep a therapist,
Yeah, man.
Just for my mental health state, because like sometimes, there's hard days, but that's why it's good to go. One, you gotta talk, and these people here are great. Yeah, I know that if I really am going through it, they're there for me. And there's no judgments. There's no. It's great.
Yeah, I love that, dude.
So,
happy to hear that. Appreciate all those kind words about our team. So you've mentioned the concept of like having a program that you work and the importance of that to long-term recovery. Can you tell us a little bit about what your quote-unquote program looks like now? Because I think for those that might not be kind of hip to the jive and the terms that the recovery community uses, like a program is, for lack of a better way to put it, a routine, right? Or a set or collection of routines supported by a community of people. So what does that program, quote-unquote, look like for you today?
So I think my biggest thing would be, the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. Your 12th step is basically just giving back.
Yeah.
I get so much enjoyment out of helping people. Always have. I think even in my addiction, I was still helping people.
Sure.
I have a big heart when it comes to, people that are, one, going through it, two, that's just I feel like that's my purpose on this earth, is to help somebody out no matter what. And the world's crazy these days, but, I think that for my program, it is a routine. And I've realized, I don't have to go to meetings every single day, but, taking like a service commitment at Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous or a Celebrate Recovery, Smart Recovery. There's so many different things you can plug into to utilize your and have a fellowship of your support group.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you the crazy thing about, it's not crazy, it's amazing. Like Alcoholics Anonymous. So I just took a service commitment at a Sunday night Alcoholics Anonymous meeting.
Nice.
It's a new meeting, and we're kind of getting things started. And I just took a service commitment, and I'm going to be there every single Sunday, no matter what.
Nice.
Unless I'm, on my deathbed, but as a secretary.
Awesome.
And one, that keeps me accountable.
Right.
And the group of guys and females, or group of guys and women that come to that group, we all have each other's numbers. So it's, like I said, it's small.
Yeah.
But I've seen people, it's on the AA.org site now.
Right.
So there's been I've seen some crazy stories come in. I saw a father and a son come in, and the father had, I think he has cirrhosis.
Oh, wow.
And like his son came to support him.
Yeah.
And it was, they're both crying, and like they've been coming. They've missed a few meetings, but they've been coming
regularly
ever since.
Yeah.
And we got their number, and we're reaching out, and like that's what it's all about. Like it's
support.
all about the fellowship.
Yeah.
And being there for somebody, because I'm giving back from what I was given. I'm giving that back.
Yeah.
And I just, and then Monday nights I go to it's a Celebrate Recovery kind of themed meeting.
Yeah.
I've been going there for almost I think it was December of 2021.
Nice.
Right when I got to Waymaker, that's when I started going.
That's awesome.
I was gone for the past 3 months when I did my treatment for my classes, and I just started going back the past 2 weeks. And when I came back, everybody's like, it's just
kind of a
it's that
homecoming.
camaraderie of just being known, and like they're good people.
Yeah, man.
Like knowing that I've got a arsenal of people on my phone.
It's awesome.
I can call.
Yeah.
Living in that world, there's not many people that, when I, went to the hospital and almost lost my life, nobody came around. I think there was one or two people that reached out that knew what happened, but I was also helping a lot of people out, and nobody put money on my books, and
yeah.
Like I said, I'm not saying those are not good people. They're just they're in addiction, active addiction, and we're selfish creatures when we're in addiction. And so, my program, I just have to stay plugged into something. That's also going to church every Sunday.
Yeah, man. Sundays are a busy day for you.
Busy day.
Yeah.
So, it's just doing that and staying accountable keeps me accountable.
Yeah.
So
that's huge, man. And if you're not sure, what your plan is or what your program is going to be, if you're early on in that journey, it might look a little different or it might look exactly the same. It's important that you find something, though. One of the biggest risks in early recovery is not having any program at all, thinking you can lone wolf it, which is particularly prevalent in as individualized a culture as we have here in the States. We think we got this. And frankly, we don't. We just don't got it.
Amen to that.
Get your people, get your people. Start there. Find the right people.
Yeah.
Go to the right places. Do the right things. Like that is the basic structure of a program. Yeah. And whatever the specifics are, right? That you'll work out those minutia in the process. So if you could summarize maybe the single greatest part about being in long-term recovery, in your opinion, what would it be? And maybe you could pair this with any advice you might give to someone.
Summarize, where do I begin?
You told us a lot of good things already.
I know. The greatest part about being in long-term recovery is, I don't have to live. I feel like I lived being in active addiction was like a full-time job. I had to lie to cover up a lie, and it was a full-time job lying and manipulating and worrying about warrants and worrying about getting pulled over because, I didn't have my license for almost 12 years. Yeah. And, when I went to that was another thing that I accomplished at Waymaker.
Getting that license back.
I got my license back all on my own from a fellow brother at Waymaker.
Yeah.
Had learned how to do his own filings, and he taught me, within 2.5 months, and I hadn't been legal for 12 years.
Yeah, it's incredible.
In 2.5 months, I had a whole list of hoops and hurdles to get, and I got them all.
Yeah.
I got my license. And
yeah, it's huge.
I went and financed a car, which was a wrong decision on my part, but I was so excited I needed a car. Yeah. I should have bought a car with cash because, being a slave to the debtor is not the way to go.
It's true. It's true.
And this car that I got, I'm still paying. It's a 5-year commitment, but it's something that I'm so grateful for every single day. Yeah. Just going to work, being in that car and just seeing, it's just amazing. People trust me today. Yeah. And I burnt so many bridges, in addiction, especially with my family. Yeah. I wasn't trusted, right. And I didn't get told we're proud of you. And I'm doing things that I should have been doing a long time ago. And sometimes I feel a little guilty for getting told you're doing a good job because I should be doing this. But it is so great to have my family alongside of me, uplifting me.
That pride is huge, man.
It is. And it means the world to be told it does. It really does. It makes a difference.
Yeah, man.
And that's and the biggest part, is like just me being there for my fellow brothers and sisters. It's an amazing feeling to be wanted. And, a lot of thing I struggle with would be, acceptance, in the past. It's always been an acceptance, fear. It was one of my biggest character defects. But, like, I just, I have my family back today.
Yeah.
I'm sober. I have a job. I'm optimistic about my future. I think that's what coming to this place, I felt like I started, like I'm setting goals.
Yeah.
And, like, I've never done that.
Right.
And, like, I'm really excited for my future.
Yeah, man.
Like,
It's
I
awesome.
always thought, like, I remember at the very beginning of this journey, I started on home detention, and, like, I was looking at it like, man, this is never going to end. Matter of fact, when I got taken to jail right after rehab,
Yeah.
I'm like, man, I remember asking the cop, can I smoke a cigarette? And I
Yeah.
told him, I was like, I'm going away for a long time because I thought for sure I'm going to prison.
Right.
And, like, he allowed me to smoke a cigarette, and he was just like, and at that time I'd been 35 days clean and sober.
Yeah.
And he allowed me to smoke a cigarette, and I just remember at that moment, I'm like, man, I'm never going to get out of this, but I'm going to do whatever it takes to get there. And I'm getting there.
Talk about resilience, bro.
Boy, it's just been amazing just to have, I've got a good support group. I've got my family back. I'm engaged, getting married.
Congrats, by the way. It's awesome.
Thanks, man. May 10th is the plan.
Okay.
Got a few things to work out, but that's the plan.
Yeah.
I just want to be as best I can be and be a man for somebody,
Yeah.
and, like, I want to be not perfect. We're obviously not perfect, but obviously, and she's been with me through this whole, she started at the beginning.
Yeah.
It was back in 2020, right when COVID happened.
Yeah.
But she rode through the whole thing. We were away from each other for 16 months, and she was there every bit of it.
Sounds like a patient lady.
Being at sober living,
Yeah.
a lot of times, guys get taken out from girls.
Right.
That's why they say never get into a relationship the first year of sobriety, because they'll be the first ones to take you out.
Yeah.
Because you got to focus on yourself.
Sure.
And, like, I was able to focus on myself.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't have to, like.
She gave you that space and that time.
She didn't like, hey, sneak out, or she respected, and she's the one that put the application in.
Wow, man, that's awesome.
And, like,
I'll have to interview her next.
yeah. So, yeah, the greatest part about this is just, I'm just really excited about where I can go.
It's great, dude. So what would you tell someone who is in your shoes, 3 years ago? Like, what advice, a single sentence of advice that you would give them?
Like, I always like seeing newcomers, and especially brand new, like, first-time AA newcomers.
Yeah.
Because they're the ones that are scared. The look in their face, you can see it all. They don't know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them don't like to say, hey, I'm an alcoholic, or hey, I'm an addict, and identify themselves as that.
Yeah.
But, and everybody's different. You don't have to say you can say, hey, I'm so-and-so, I'm a recovered, you don't have to identify as that. I think that whatever works for you, but nope, it's never too late to start somewhere. Because,
love that, man.
And you're never too far gone to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure of it, there's a family member praying for that person.
Yeah, dude.
My mom prayed for me for years.
Yeah.
For years. And it's such an honor to sit next to my mom every single day, or every single day at church. She sits, we go to the same church now.
It's awesome, man.
And it's like such a beautiful thing. Like, you can do it. I mean, it is. And you have to take it one day at a time. You can't worry about, like, with me, I was at the beginning, not seeing, my thought process was like, man, there is no light at the end of the tunnel.
Right.
But it takes hard work. It's easy getting sober. It's staying sober. That's got to put the work in.
Yeah.
And you got to, it does get easier, but you just have to, you got to figure out what works best for you.
Yeah.
And, I feel like I've figured that out. I'm still learning. I have bad days.
Sure.
But and you're going to have bad days, especially fresh in recovery. You're going to have bad days.
Yeah.
You're going to want to throw the towel in day upon day. But
yeah,
that's why you go through. My advice would be get a sponsor, go through the 12 steps. And the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous can be used, I think, for people that's not even an addiction.
Sure.
They're everyday principles that you should adhere to.
Yeah.
Like the 10th step is a daily, the 4th and the 5th step, the 4th step is your moral inventory of you're getting all this stuff out that you've held. A lot of times you don't really realize like why you're drinking or why you're using drugs, but
Right.
like a lot of it is resentments. It's a lot of it's fears. It's a lot of the stuff that, and once you get it down to paper and then you sit down with the sponsor and tell somebody those things, there's so much freedom in that.
Yeah, man.
It was a game changer for me because I said I was going to do it for the longest time.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to lie, when I got to Waymaker, I kind of dragged my feet a little bit. And then they were finally like, do you have a sponsor? And I'm like, I do, but, so anyways, I ended up getting another sponsor, and he was great. I think we sat down for like 4 hours for my 5th step.
Yeah.
But the 10th step is that daily spot check
Yeah.
of just, when you're wrong, promptly admitting it, to just doing the right thing every day, basically, right. And avoiding those mends that you have to make down the line.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Obviously,
prevention's the best intervention, in
yeah,
other words.
And like I realized I had a lot of amends to make because I hurt a lot of people.
Sure.
So yeah, my best advice would just be, you can do it. If I can do it, anybody can do it.
Amen to that, man. Proud of you.
Thanks, man.
Good work, man.
I appreciate you.
And thank you for your willingness to share your story.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's a powerful one, and I know that there's someone who's going to see this or listen to this is going to be moved to take that next step. If that's you, remember Elijah's words. It's never too late, right? You're never too old. You're never too crusty and hardened. You've never done too much wrong to take that next healthy step. So if that's you, please consider taking that next healthy step.
Absolutely.
Reach out to one of us. Reach out to the Willow Center. Reach out to whatever recovery center or 12-step group or other recovery program that's nearby your town or city or street, and start. Just take that first step. It's worth the leap. It's worth the fear. It's worth the discomfort. There is hope, and recovery is possible.
It is possible. Anything's impossible if you're sober.
Amen.
Absolutely.
Thank you all so much for tuning in. This has been Season 4, Episode 9 of the Willow Center Podcast. Again, thank you to Elijah for being our guest. My name is Chase Cotton, the Community Director here at the Willow Center. We'll be back next month with Episode 10, talking about the topic of service, 12-step.
Nice.
We're talking about what it means to give back in regards to your mental health and what that does to your brain when you help others and serve others, as well as what it means in the recovery community. So thank you so much for tuning in. Until then, take care of yourselves and be well.